episode 58 of Broad Street Hustle. I'm your host, Tommy Nani, bringing you the Belmont Stakes today. The last leg of the Triple Crown. No, we do not have a Triple Crown on the line, but we do have a very competitive race, very competitive races leading up to it that we will start with race 7, which ultimately is kind of the start of the pick 6, but we're really just going to go through all the grade ones that lead up to the Belmont Stakes, which is a 7:02, I believe, post time, so a late night. But we have a pretty fun show ahead. Let me get to who I have. My normal co-host, Jason Sayedic. Good night, evening, whatever you want to call
Good
it.
evening. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Jason. And we got Jimmy the Chalk, as always.
As always, glad to be here.
We do not have the meat, Christopher Michael Meeker, and I was going to give him some credit. I mean, he's been spot on with his NBA picks. He gave you the game one prop of.
He's the best after the game handicapper.
On the
I've
podcast, he said for game one, the combined assist of I think it was Joker and Murray. He said if the Heat win a game, it would be one or two. Well, it would be game two because he didn't think it would be game one.
Okay.
And he has the Butler under 27.5 prop for the series, which he's well on his way to probably hitting that. So,
broken clock's right twice a day. Remember that.
I did want to give him his props. So,
okay.
But before we jump into Belmont, which we'll do shortly, it is I've heard on the radio all day. It's the 10-year anniversary of the process, and there's a lot of debate. And I'm not going to go into that, but I heard something that you guys probably know, and I did know, and I just forgot. I guess it was the year Hinkie got fired. The Sixers' record was 1-30 when Hinkie got fired. They lost their first 17 or 18 games. Then they won a game and lost like 10 or 11 in a row, and it was 1-30 when Hinkie got fired.
I find that hard to believe.
I don't think that's because he resigned very late in the season, so I don't think that's correct.
I don't think
they might have started 1-30 in that year, but it was not when he resigned.
But they were 1-30 at one point.
I don't think that's correct
I don't think
either.
That's true.
But
I would remember that. That's like historically
this is why
bad.
But they did lose like their first 17, 18 games. I do remember that.
They had a bad start, and then they traded for Ish Smith, I think, and won a couple games. But
I just don't know why they would make that up. Why would they say it, make it up? I mean,
who said it on the radio?
Well, I don't want to give away a radio show. I mean, it was one of
but
local sports talk radio.
That completely could explain who did because they make stuff up. But
I just find that hard to believe that it would just flat out be made up.
Yeah, I don't recall that at all.
Well, made up perhaps not, but accurate. They could have been somebody told them on the corner the night before or something.
Yeah, Meeker might have called in or something.
Somebody that paid for a blue check mark on Twitter and they're confused. I don't know. So, but let's see right here. So 2015-2016 Philadelphia 76ers. They only won 10 games all year, so that was a bad year. They just missed, I think 9 was the record for most losses at the time.
Yeah, Sixers set NBA record with 1-29 starts.
Yeah, no, how about that? I don't remember that whatsoever. They started at 1-30. Yeah,
1-30. Wow. And I'm telling you, you sure that's not when Hinkie was let go?
I think that's around the time they started bringing the other Colangelo came in, the father maybe. I think that's when he came on, but
yeah, maybe that's when
Hinkie didn't leave. Hinkie didn't leave till the end of the year.
So they drafted Ben Simmons that year.
That was the year.
That was the year they won. They won for Ben Simmons.
Right.
Yes.
And that goes to my theory. The only year they got the number one pick outside of they traded to get it for Fultz of that whole tank was the year the league stepped in and made Hinkie resign. So I'm sure there was some sort of back deal that, hey, you'll get the number one pick because they can't force the guy out. They had the organization had to agree that.
I remember thinking that now. Yeah, I agree.
Hinkie resigned at the end of the season on April 6, 2016. So.
But maybe his powers were taken away or something. But 1-30, I mean, that's amazing, right?
I can't believe I don't remember that.
That's exactly that was my response. I said, "There's no way 1-30." I
didn't remember it being that bad.
1-30. No, I mean, that's the point with That's why people had the problem. They took it to another level of tanking. Like, teams tank, but like they just took it to a level.
I loved it then, and I still think it was the right.
Oh no! Now I'm not going to debate. I'm a huge process person.
I mean, don't we wish the Flyers would have tanked this year, right?
But the thing to remember too, and so they hired Jerry Colangelo after starting 1-21, so that's when he came on board. But it wasn't like they drafted Embiid knowing he'd have to sit a year. Okay. He wasn't expected to sit 2 years because he got hurt again, and the plan wasn't to just not win.
That wasn't the total, but also you could have gotten players in there that would have made you better than 1 I mean, they had guys.
Yeah, I mean, they were bringing guys in. They were going to play hard, but they weren't trying to put a winning team together. Either.
How many guys did they get trade for? And
he traded away guys that could have helped him, like Drew Holiday,
And then for guys they cut immediately, guys that had talent that they immediately cut.
Yeah, but he also brought on some guys who turned out to be players, like Grant and Holmes.
But then
Covington,
I guess Colangelo got rid of them. But
Covington, right?
These guys I'm just saying they took it to a level that was if they would have just kind of pulled the Spurs kind of did this year, just that tank. They just 1-30 is another level of. Like they didn't have a competitive team that would take the court on any given night.
Yeah,
no, because that was Okafor's rookie year, right? So he got arrested for the drunk driving, or he got in a bar fight up in Boston, and he was a little bit of a mess. But
yeah, I had to bring that up because it was just when I heard it, I couldn't believe it.
I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't just look it up. I didn't remember it being that bad.
No.
But
I didn't think they would just flat make that up. So. All right, let's go into why we are here today. The Belmont Stakes, Belmont Park Day is this Saturday. We're going to jump right in with race 7, which does start the pick 6, which is $1 pick 6 if you were interested in playing. But let's jump right into the Grade 1 Ogden Phipps, which is for fillies and mares, 4 years and up. Always a fun race. Usually doesn't draw a huge field, and it did not draw a huge field. Again, bigger than some years, but not void of talent. So, Jason, I'll throw it over to you to kick the episode 58 of Broad Street Hustle off.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, it's a short field, but there's some nice horses in here. I like 2 horses above all, and I'm not going to use any more than 2. I like Clariere a lot. I think she's going to get a decent pace to run into. There's a couple of forward horses here. One horse that's definitely going to the lead, and pretty much any other horse that's got a chance in the race is going to be forward. She's the only legitimate closer. So I'm definitely using the 6 Clariere, but I'm also going to use search results 2. If you guys, I'm sure you do remember because we were there, but she ran a hell of a race last year in the same race. And you can see she's 2 for 3 at Belmont with 1/3, so she must like this big Sandy, I guess they call it. She legitimately is going to be up close to the pace. Maybe she's on the pace if played hard doesn't go to the lead, which she should, or maybe she just sits right off of played hard and Clariere's too far back and search results goes by. But I'm too deep here. Clariere to 6 and 2 search results.
All right, and if you go back about minute 30 of the show, overdub my voice for Jason's voice, but keep the, what he said the same. That's my opinion. So I'm too deep. Now I guess it sounded like Jason was probably leaning more towards Clariere, which I would probably lean a little more, but I can see using them slightly even because I do like search results. I think Pratt is going to play it out as Jason said. If Play Hard guns it to the lead, he's going to sit right off, which would be a great trip for her. If Play Hard decides to take back, then I could see Pratt moving her much closer, if not on the lead, and having to hold Clariere off at the end, kind of like last year. Now, Clariere did clear by pretty good margin last year, but I see it exactly the same, so I'm not going to keep adding. Chalky?
My A is Clariere, my B is search results, and I would possibly throw a C in there for Played Hard, and the reason I would put that horse in 2 is that those two are going to go to the lead, right? They're going to stay in search results, played hard. If they don't go blazing fast, they could almost go all the way around. And Rosario's been very hit or miss with some of his rides lately. So if he gets himself too far back, Clariere might have too much ground to make up. She's the best horse in the race, and she'd be my A. But I would probably throw both pace horses in, structuring it with more money on search results.
Yeah, I just think if the pace is not that hot, search results are going to be close enough, and the better of the two horses that she'll be able to go by and hold off Clarier. And past the Champagne, who's kind of stretching out for this race, has speed as well. So there's, I don't know what that Fergie Lynch is going to do, but that jock, they definitely could be part of the pace as well. All right, let's move on to the actual pick 5. Which is race 8. The Woody Stevens, always a fun race. 7 furlongs for three-year-olds. Chalky, throw it over to you.
Yeah, it's a pretty good race, I think, and there's a lot of speed in the race. So you look at the 3 Arabian Lion, and it's like, all right, what kind of horse is this going to be? Ran big his last couple races. Had a 103 and the 2 turn Sir Barton, but he's cutting back a little bit. I mean, I think you have to use him, but he could get challenged very much. And I like the horse. I like the horses coming out of the Pat Day Mile. I think Fort Bragg and General Jim are going to sit far enough back that if there's a pretty hot pace up front, that they'll be in good shape to make a move, similar to they did in the Pat Day Mile, and they finished very close. And then if you wanted a longer shot, I mean, the 6 Harrodsburg run 2 nice races. Again, it's going to be part of that pace duel. It's a big step up, but at a double-digit price, might be worth mixing in somewhere as a C or on a double, just messing around or something. But I would say 3, 4, 5. Obviously, or I'm sorry, the 5 is Armand. 3, 4, 8, and then mix the 6 in for fun. So,
Jason.
I think Baffert is winning this race, and my main horse I'm going to use prominently will be the 3 Arabian Lion. I'm also going to use the 8 Fort Bragg, though, but my top pick is the 3 Arabian Lion. I mean, basically, he's speed, he's cutting back. It's basically what Baffert uses to win these type of races. Ran a big number last out, 3rd off a layoff. There's just a lot to like with this horse. I will say if there is a crazy pace duel and you're looking for a closer to win as a bomb, I didn't hate the 12 Gilmore to come off the pace, at least to get a piece of it. Maybe underneath an exacta or trifecta, but if there's a total pace collapse, I might mess around with the 12. But my main horse will be the 3, and then my backup to win will be the 8 Fort Bragg. 3 Arabian Lion to win, 8 Fort Bragg also.
So for me, I always, when I talk about the Woody Stevens, I always go back to a horse like a profile type horse like Tufflesburg, who many years ago was the speed and cutback coming out of the Derby. But what at one time you would look for Derby horses who were stretching out but had speed and now cutting back. But to me, 2 horses fit that profile. I'm only going to use one of them. I'll talk about the one I'm not going to use first, which is the 11 Victory Formation. Speed, cut back at one time. This horse was thought to be a Derby horse. You go back to the Risen Star just 2 races ago. He's the favorite. Now his stablemate won the race, but so it was a horse that they kept him routing, now cutting him back in the Woody Stevens. But for me, it's going to be the 3 Arabian Lion, which is the Baffert, for all the reasons Jason said. It's speed, cutting back. And, you look at Byers, you look at Thorographs, you look at whatever speed figures you want to look at. His numbers also kind of just top the field. Now, that's routing, but again, I'm looking for a cutback with speed. So, talk about a horse cutting back speed and has the best speed figures. Oh, and by the way, has Bob Baffert as your trainer? Yeah, sign me up. So I'll go with the 3 Arabian Lion as my single in the multis if I were, going to play one. So, all right, let's move to race 9. Always a fun race. A lot of years it looks like it's going to be chaos, and you see kind of short prices win. I don't know if that's true or not, more anecdotal, but I am going to be selfish here as the host, which I can do. I'm not going to go first because I just don't have a clue. So I'm gonna go with Chalky just because I'm that type of person. So Chalky, you go.
Well, Casa Creed's beat me 2 years in a row in this race, and I'm not going to leave him off my tickets this year. And he's making the same move from coming from Dubai or Saudi. He didn't run Dubai, but he did go over to Saudi Arabia, the Middle East. He's done that before, won this race. Use him. Caravel just keeps beating everybody. Again, there's a lot of pace potentially signed up, so she might not hold on, but you don't want to leave her off. And then, Big Invasion is kind of a quirky horse recently. It's like every other race, it seems like he runs a decent one, but this would be the race to be on, and he'll be coming from off the pace. So, yeah, my top choices would be 10, 11, 12 there. I honestly don't have a preference because, like you said, there's reasons to not or to like them. The longer shot, I would throw the 9 in there as well. Again, it's going to be on the speed, but Franco's picking back up on the horse, knows the horse, and didn't run bad, in Pimlico last time out, and has some experience in New York, although not at Belmont, except for way back when it was running dirt. So for more of a price, I'd put nothing better in there. So 10, and 11, 12 with a little 9.
Yeah, I'll go through similar to Chalky as far as horses. I would probably have an all somewhere along the lines, with the exception of like a couple in here. So maybe the one I can't see winning. You could go through the list and see some obvious horses that you don't see winning. Some knocks though on some of the ones Chalky said, and I'm only going to use that because they're going to be the shorter prices on some of them. So Casa Creed, yeah, you have to. I don't see any way to not use a Casa Creed. He's 3 for 4 at Belmont. His only loss came. He did show, so he hit the board. Same sort of setup as he had last time. He was a little bit off the speed. Right. Yeah, he came off the speed in Jaipur. He was coming from overseas. Have to use him. Caravel, I'll say, he's a horse that has beaten 12, has beaten 14, has beaten 10. So he's beaten a lot of horses in the races he's winning. But those races are, yes, the Breeders' Cup Sprint, which we've talked about before, is a great one. But for the most part, they're not the classiest races where this is a grade 1. Big Evasion, same way. His only graded race that Big Evasion won was against 5 other horses and not really a good field. His other graded races, not so great. So just some reasons maybe to not use those horses or think of horses that can win. It's just a complete spread for me. One horse that does intrigue me a lot was Go Bears Go. So second time Wesley Ward. But a key to that horse is it's going from Johnny V to Jose Ortiz. Jose Ortiz knows this turf course so well. He rides this turf, especially the sprint course, so well. So I think that's a good sneaky jockey change. You think Johnny V's, he's older now, top jock, but I do think it's a pretty big upgrade from Johnny V to Jose here in Belmont. And it is second time Wesley. So if I was going to use one of the Wesleys, he would be over. I would like him better than, I guess it's a Rest Me Red, who I think will be a much shorter price because it is IRAD, it is Wesley. So that other one, then Nothing Better, like Chalky said, with speed. Again, I don't have a strong opinion. There's just some of what I thought, but I don't have. You know what? If I had a top pick, let's say Go Bears Go, just because I want to use a price. But I would spread big time on this one. Jason?
Yeah, for the purposes of the show, I'll give 4 horses, but I'm probably going to use more that day on tickets. But the one thing I'm against Caravel. I'm against her. To me, if you look at her PPs, look at the races she wins, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5. This is now 6, all right? And, yeah, it's a half a furlong, but you can see at the end of races she's barely hanging on, and there's going to be other speed. I'm not – she's going to be the favorite here.
It's 6 that she has to show speed and get over, too. She is posted at the 12 post.
Yeah,
so.
I thought being the outside speed could be a little bit to her advantage, so she's not going to get swallowed up with the ones inside that are going to look to go, so she could have a little more room to go there. But, it's definite – there's more speed signed on than some of these other races that we've handicapped her in before.
And it's a half a furlong longer. So
yeah. She's never beaten the boys at 6. She beat the girls last year, but...
And she's just hanging on in those 5.5s too.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's to me. I'm playing against her.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah. So I'll give you 4 horses. In no particular order. I'll give you the horse I like last. To win. But the 5 Dr. Zemp for Pratt and Brown. I think you got to use that horse, right? Going to throw him in. And I know Tommy said he's
The only thing I'll tell you with that horse is, just for purpose of this, that 7.5 at Gulfstream is a 2-turn race.
Yeah.
So it's not,
Yeah.
So the only sprinting races have been overseas and they haven't been great.
Right.
So although 7.5, you would think it's 1 turn, it is 2 turn, just to throw that out there.
Yeah. I'm going to throw him in. I am using the Rest Me Red, the 8, and I'm using him because it's IRAD. IRAD and a turf sprint at Belmont, I have to use that horse. Casa Creed, like Chalky had mentioned, I mean, I'm using him. He'll probably be my top pick, barely, slightly, but I'm not going to let him beat me again. He beats me every year, and I'm just not doing it. I'm also going to throw the 10 Big Invasion in. I like that horse on Derby Day. I just didn't run well. I guess he had some traffic trouble or whatever. But so 5, 8, 10, 11 for me. Slightly Casa Creed is my top pick.
Yeah, this is a race where you probably, if you did want to spread, you probably want to put some value on your spread. So, for instance, you use an all ticket, fine, but if you did like Casa Creed, you don't want to be all your money on like big spread and Casa Creed wins as the favorite or whatever. Right. So if you're not weighted correctly, that's where you can lose value. So
yeah.
Although we're saying spread, you still want to kind of weigh your top picks as much as possible. All right, let's move to the Met Mile, which came up, another very good race. Some real big names, some real big speed figures, some real big winning margins. So I will just go. I'll start with Jason. What do you think? Do you think the one Cody's Wish is a lock here, or do you have horses to beat?
Yeah, I'm going to try and beat him. I obviously could win, and I might look stupid, but I am going to try to beat him. It's a tough race. There's not much to knock about him, but I don't know. I mean, has he faced horses this good? I don't think so. He is 6 for 6 at the distance. He seems to like Belmont. Like I said, not much to knock, but at the price he's going to be, I think he'll be lower than 7-5 morning line. I'm going to try to beat him. And I'm going to take a shot with a slightly a bomb as my top pick. I'm going to use 9 What a Barrio as my top pick. Look at his one-turn races. They're all good. Hey, maybe Dutrow gets back on track and gets his first big stakes win since he got reinstated. Definitely using White Barrio, and like I said, he'll be my top pick. I'm also going to use the 3 Dr. Skyville, who's going to be California Speed. 5 Charge It. Who knows? I mean, that horse is so talented. If it's his day, he could win by multiple lengths, or he could pick it up, but I'm going to throw him in. And then Zandon, the 6, we always thought he was a one-turn closer, and he might get the speed to finally, win a big race like this. So I'm going to use him also. So 3, 5, 6, 9 with 9 as the White Barrio as my top pick.
Okay, Chalky, where are you at?
I wouldn't call Cody's Wish a stone cold lock, but trying to look at how to beat him. I mean, he could lose, but look at his numbers. Distance, it's not going to be a problem. So, I mean, he is the stone cold A for me. I had Charge It as well as a B. He's a horse that we thought would make some noise this year, and the last 2 races have been a little lackluster. But you look at that number he ran at Belmont, and yeah, he won by 23 lengths, and there was probably pigs in the race, but you run a 111 and a -4 on the sheets. Like, that's just crazy. So maybe he likes it, and there's obviously talent there. So I would throw him in case he goes back to Freak. I played around with Doppelganger. Ultimately, I think I'm not going to include, but that horse has been improving. Is Brittany We're also going to win this race? Well, it was a Baffert, and she won a grade 1 out last time with him. The only thing I'll say is that if Repo Rock somehow wins this race, it's a goddamn disgrace because that trainer winning this race with that horse is ridiculous. So I believe Jimmy D last year said that if Tyba was going to win the Derby, they'd throw a rope up at the quarter pole to pull him down. Naira better do that if Repo Rocks is going to win this race. So
Yeah, I just wrote trainer, obviously a big time cheat. I mean,
yeah, they should be ashamed of themselves if they let him win this race.
the numbers the horse has run since Jamie Ness took over
it's
is just
ridiculous.
ridiculous. So I'm going to handicap the race with that horse not in it as well because it's a joke. Yeah, Cody's Wish was an A for me. I'll loan A the horse. I would say the only knock on the horse is Junior Alvarado, but he's overcome him one, two, three, four, five. How many times now? 6, 7 times. The one post could be an issue. Um, so I mean, Dr. Shivel, he beat 2 horses in his last race, so I just can't. I can't have a horse in this situation coming off of a race with 2 horses. Charge it. I think the horse is just lost. So, he's never run even remotely close back to a number that he ran at Belmont and the Dwyer. Then Pletcher throws the blinkers on him last race, runs terrible. I takes the blinkers. No, I guess the blinkers are staying on for this race. I just don't. I think he's like a lost cause. I can't see him waking up in the Met Mile, coming off 2 bad performances. I mean, he was a 3-5 in the race that he lost over at Gulfstream, and he by endorsed, and he was like had to be used the entire way. Even the other race at Gulfstream, he was 1-5 and had to did some dirty work to get it done. So it's Cody's Wish for me. I did use Zandon as my B horse, so just the same as Jason said, he was a horse that I preached one turn, one turn, one turn. So he got one turn against Repo. He got one turn against in the Cigar Mile, and he really didn't perform. Now the Cigar Mile was in slop. The Westchester was Repo Rocks freaked again. Plus it had Dylan Davis as the jockey. So when he gets Pratt back. And again, I'm just not going to lose if that horse wins because I preached one turn. But for me, it's Cody's Wish's race to lose, and I don't see him losing. All right, moving on nicely here. We have a nice quick show for you guys, hopefully. Although we still would have the Belmont Stakes, which is going to take a little bit longer. But let's move to race 11. It is the Manhattan. Always a fun race. You do see, you will tend to see prices at times in this race, which is fun. You have a couple internationals who did run in America, but are true international horses. And then you got an emerging turf star in the favorite. So, Jason, start back with you.
Yeah, I'm only going to go too deep here, and I am going to try to beat the favorite up to the mark. I'm going to go with the Appleby horses. I watch replays of this of these horses, and if you guys haven't, watch Warren Point's last race. I mean, that horse just did not get out of the gate and was totally eliminated. A second into the race. I mean, that horse wants to be close to the pace, and like I said, he was out of the last race. So. He had an awful start in the Man of War. Like I said, wants to be forward. He's a huge bet back for me. And then for Ottoman Empire, that horse has got a crazy turn of foot. I watched his last race at the one at Belmont where he just totally just came flying. He's very live. I just think Up the Mark's going to be like an underlay. I mean, listen, he could be a good horse, and I'm sure he'll be.
The only thing I'll tell you there, I would not be surprised if Ottoman Fleet is the favorite. These Appleby horses get bet, so
It's possible.
I almost would say he's going to be the favorite and Up the Mark. Now I think it'll be, 8-5, 9-5, some situation like that. But
I almost like Warren's Point better than Ottoman. I mean, Warren's Point totally was a heavy favorite in that race and just totally was eliminated. And you almost throw that race out, and why wouldn't he be the favorite again? So, and he won't be. So I think he's going to be an overlay. If he's 4-1, I mean, there's tons of value in that horse. But that's it. I'm going to go 3-4. I'm going to take my shot. I'm going to try to get value in beating at least Up the Mark.
All right, yeah, and I'll go. I'm 3 here deep, so I mean it's all 3 chalks. It's the 3, it's the 4, and I just think that right now, Up the Mark might be the best American turf horse that we have, and he's improving. It's an IRAD, it's Pletcher on Belmont Day, so definitely not going to lose to that horse. The 3 would be the least of the ones that I like. And you hate to play this game, but like Mullen wins with the 4. He gets moved to 3. Buick, who is Applebee's kind of American horse jockey when he runs these races, he has Buick on the 4. Buick won on the 3 before, ran a couple times, so it's not like he's not familiar with the 3. So I feel like he probably or Appleby might have had a say in it. And he chose to go with the 4 Ottoman. So, again, and the price is going to reflect that as well because he will be a shorter price than the 3. So I would lean on the 4, but I'm nothing clever here. 3, 4, and Up the Mark, who is whatever his number is, the 8. But 4, 8 is my 2 leans. And if I had to pick one, I would probably say the 4 Ottoman Fleet. So chalky.
I mean, perhaps I'm biased, but Jason and I were texting yesterday, so I pretty much knew everything he was going to say. And as I handicapped, I came to the same conclusions, except for I would lean 4 over the 3 slightly. Although I did go back and forth, and ultimately the jockey difference is what I went with. But the trouble, the 3 didn't run. They rushed. They got up to the lead with rushing them, and they just didn't have enough to finish last time out. And this is a little bit shorter, right? That was a mile and 3/8 before. For Up the Mark. Look, I would say obviously the best older turf male horse. Maybe the extra furlong is an equalizer here. I think if you see him go off as the favorite, that's probably a strong sign. There's going to be a lot of local money on that horse because it's Rapoli. So if he's getting bet heavy at the window, then there's probably going to be a lot of confidence there, especially if it's a significant difference. But I do agree that 4 could go off the favorite. So I would make 3 and 4 my A's with a slight lean to the 4 in this one.
And by the way, I started this, but it's Up to the Mark is the horse's name. I started saying
Mark.
up the Mark, yeah.
Well, I didn't even turn to that page because I know I wasn't picking them. So
Right.
All right, let's go to our feature. It's the Belmont Stakes. Chalky, help me out on the number we are.
Race 12.
Belmont. Oh, the race of the running.
The running of the Belmont.
155.
Belmont 155.
The 50th anniversary of Secretariat's record-breaking performance. That's a big theme this year.
Are we getting anything cool for that, or are we?
It depends if we get there early enough. First 5,000 people through the door get a reprint of the program from that day. There's actually a pretty cool poster that they're giving out tomorrow that nobody, we're not going to be there for.
We should get there for that.
It just might be crazy.
But there's going to be some. They got an exhibit at the track. It sounds like they brought some stuff down from the Hall of Fame. Ronnie Turcotte will be there, so should be pretty cool. And I mean, not to go too far off the track, but I mean, for my money, that's probably the best athletic performance, human, equine, or otherwise, that I've ever seen on any one particular day. There's actually back in like 1999. ESPN did the top 100 athletes of the century, and Secretariat was the only non-human to make the list. They did a really good video on him. I'll put it in the chat so people can see it, or the comments.
All I'm saying is I seen a bear play Kobayashi in a hot dog eating contest, and Kobayashi was winning like 20-1, and the bear must finally realize like he was either hungry or it was competition. He swiped his arm at the plate, and all of a sudden the score you saw was like 26-20. The bear ate 25 hot dogs in one swipe.
He didn't beat Joe Chestnut, though. He didn't beat Joe Chestnut.
No, yeah.
I don't think the bear
the Black
retired
Widow, but
after or went in the immediate cardiac arrest after eating 50 hot dogs. But
I don't think there's any horse on any track that could have beaten Secretariat that day 50 years ago. So.
All right. Well, I don't think you're going to see a Secretariat-like performance in the Belmont. Now, we have time. I mean, we could go horse by horse here. We don't have to spend tons of time on it.
Yeah, there's only 9 horses. I'm prepared to do that.
Okay.
You guys.
So I say do it. I mean, we don't have to drone on if somebody has an opinion that you agree with. I mean, we know the deal. So all right, let's do it. Let's go to the first, and I'll just go and clock the order I'm looking at, you guys. The number 1 Tapachoo, so it's one of 3 horses for Brad Cox. Me and Jason were talking about this horse a little bit earlier. Jason, where are you at?
Yeah, I totally think that this horse is a rabbit. The Cox, like Tommy said, has 3 horses in the race. His other 2 horses, for the most part, want to come off the pace. If there's not a rabbit in the race, the National Treasure, we will get to him eventually, but could possibly be Lone Speed. Cox totally doesn't want that to happen, so I don't think this horse has any chance at all. I think he's in the race to speed up the race and set it up for the other 2 Cox horses.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's in the race to speed it up. It's just weird. I mean, my only thing, and the horse has no shot, but the fact that Jose is on the horses, I thought a little odd. Now he had no mount, I guess. So what's he going to
But
do?
he's good at like speed. Like he'll get speed into the horse. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
no,
He'll get
no.
the
But
horse
I'm
going.
saying like that makes me then it starts to make me think about Jose and Irad. Is there something nefarious there? Although, for it, which we'll get to, we'll need pace as well. So again, it all points back to
Yeah.
this horse being used on the lead with no real chance.
Mm-hmm.
Chalky.
If the rest of the horses all lost their shoes, this horse would still not win. So no.
All right, so we'll go to fan. Probably will be a fan favorite. Chalky, we'll start with you. The number 2, Tap It Trice.
So I guess this is my stand against. The horse is a tap it, right? Well, so was the last one, but they've traditionally done well here. It's the highest purchase price, whatever. He just didn't really do any running in the Derby, and he had a little bit of trouble, but he was in the same position as the horses that finished 1-3. So I am watching.
Yeah, if you see us animated,
I'll look back.
the Phillies are bases loaded in the 9th here, so trying to keep one eye on that as well.
I thought maybe they won when I saw it, but no. So I just the horse can win. Yes, if we put him on a ticket we put together, I'm not going to argue, but I'm not going to have him on my tickets because I think there's better horses for this race than this one. So he is a not include as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I was against the horse as well. He fits the profile of the Derby, skipping the Preakness. He's via Tappet. He's Pletcher. All the reasons why he's going to be a short price. But I also like to see those types of horses run a little bit better in the Derby. I mean, he finished 7th by default. I mean, he really never threatened with any type of move. He's a horse that really Saez always has to stay on to kind of get him motivated. So, he's in no use for me as well, as the Phillies tied the game up with a chance to win it. Let's hope. But he is a no use as well. And I honestly thought he was a little slow. He was slow going into the Derby. So I continue to think he's slow. And sure, he can hit the board. I would probably play most tries without using him because I think there's tons of value. But of course, I mean, he is, for the reasons why people are going to like him, he could. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll definitely be an underlay, but he's well bred, like you guys said. Pletcher knows how to win this race. I like Saez. He didn't run terribly in the Derby. He didn't run great either. But going into the Derby, he was one of the favorites. I think the horse could definitely win. I'm going to be using him. I don't disagree that his price is probably lower than it realistically should be, but I still think he could win the race, so I'm going to use him.
Yeah, what's interesting, and I don't know how this factors into the Belmont since it's a mile and a half, but and all the horses if you look through. But Tomlinson is sometimes a indicator of there's a number on the PPs that touch it, and his Tomlinson is low, considering it's happening. I just don't. Yeah, I just don't know if maybe the Belmont, because it's a mile and a half, you don't see high Tomlinsons because who's really bred to go a mile and a half, So, but I did think that was a low number, which
Yeah, I think most of it must come from the dam side because if you look at the one, he's at 327.
With the same with
that's a flower out there. So it's the Dunkirk. I guess Dunkirk mare must be dragging that number down.
Dunkirk was a distance horse, but maybe they won somehow.
He actually ran. He ran really well in the Belmont, and then I think he had to retire with an injury after that. But I guess
maybe who the mare might not be.
He's been a sire for 12, 13 years now. Maybe he's just not throwing that kind of distance. I don't know, but
right, and his offspring might not be. That's true. Yeah, so that was just something to bring your eyes to. All right, the number 3 is Arcangelo.
Arcangelo.
Arcangelo. So it sounds like might be an Italian horse by an Italian trainer. So I do will be silently rooting for this horse. Um, 8-1 is, I mean, an absolute joke. Now I guess the 97 buyer and the one Thorograph is the reason why. I did see on Twitter today his rag number was like horrific, which is weird that the
Yeah.
Thorograph, which kind of uses the same formula, has a one and the rag had such a bad number.
Yeah.
So I am against this horse only because I just don't think the horse has any chance. I don't think Jenna Antonacci is going to win the Belmont Stakes. So
Antonucci.
I don't think that's how you say it though.
Yeah,
For
it is.
some reason, you sure?
Yeah.
I thought I heard it pronounced differently. I mean, we know somebody with that same name pronounced Antonucci. I just didn't think that's how they pronounce that last name. So I guess I'm wrong. No, that's not a horse for me. Jason?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he is bred well. You know, he's out of a tappet mare, so he's got some tappet in him. So he's bred for the distance, but he made a huge jump in the last race on the Thorograph. He went from 5 to a 1. Most times you bounce after that. So I'm against. I'm not going to use the horse at all. Just hoping you don't get the board or anything.
Chalky?
Yeah, I'm a not use as well, and I was probably looking at the same thing that you saw on Twitter, Tommy, and the way I saw it framed is that the not having as good number on the rags is a positive if you like the horse because
Correct,
the
yeah.
Thorograph jump sets up for a bounce, whereas if you
Bounce,
like the
right.
rags, there's still more improvement there. So that's interesting
Right.
point just to think about. But no, I'm not. The Peter Pan, is not throwing winners in 30 years or so. I think so. I'm not thinking this horse is going to
Yeah,
be
I
the
mean,
first one.
Bishop's Bay, Henry Q. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
That's the horse to beat. All right, go back to Jason. He gets he gets the Baffert here for National Treasure, the Preakness winner.
Yeah, obviously he's going to be up on the pace. Now, we've already said that we think that the one is in the race to kind of be a thorn in this horse's side. The 4 National Treasure has 4 straight 4s on the Thorograph, so he's got room for improvement. He could improve, but I just don't think he's going to get an early, easy lead. So I'm going to be against this horse.
Yeah, I was against this horse too, and I think when you see Baffert, you see Preakness winner, it's going to be an underlay.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, the Preakness pace was slow, and the horse found a little bit, but he was beating Blazing Sevens, who isn't a powerhouse horse to begin with. And the horse probably doesn't win if the Cox doesn't scratch before, in the Preakness. So, I mean, I just think it's a huge underlay. And for not going to get the pace set up that he had last race, doesn't have fast enough speed figures, and just not, is Baffert going to win the Belmont with all the controversy? Yeah, no good for me, Chalky.
Yeah, I'm not using him as well. I mean, the pace scenario does potentially scare me because if he gets an easier lead, and we've seen horses on the pace win this race before, but to what Jason was saying earlier, I think there's going to be a couple of horses that will keep it honest enough, and even some of the other ones we'll talk about can lie closer to the pace than they have from other races. There's only 9 in this race, so I don't think he's going to get an easy lead, hopefully, and I'm not going to use.
All right, let's move to 7. Now, Chalky, you could be wordy at times, so I'm not gonna go to you first, even though it's your time. This horse has no chance to win. We're not
I had a whole thing lined
We're
up
not
for
going
this.
to talk any more about this horse. Can't win. If you had a cute saying, you could say it.
Okay, Chalky, but
Well, look,
I
here's
have
all
something.
here's all I'm going to say. Tom Durkin is back to call this race on Fox Sports. So in his back pocket, I'm sure he has. Do you believe in Ir Moleculo who wins the Belmont Stakes and throw a little Al Michaels out there? So no, but he's not going to win.
Yeah, I mean, the horse has shown pace, so who knows? Maybe it's part of the pace. But Jason, you said you had something.
I was just going to say it's another Italian horse. That's all I got.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, Antonio Sano's not Italian, so you
Yeah,
sure
but it
it's
doesn't
not
mean the horse isn't Italian. Il
No,
Morocco is
we
Italian.
sure it's not a Latin phrase.
No,
of
that's
some sort?
Italian.
All right, so let's Chalky. You get to I would assume will be the favorite in the
This is
race.
another
Fort.
Italian horse, by the way, Forte. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm gonna call him Forte, not Fort. So this is my first A. The obviously he scratched out of the Derby under potentially dubious circumstances. But I didn't really like him in the Derby, but this is shorter field and not as deep by any means. And I think the minute he scratched out, they made sure I say they, the connection, set their sights on this race. And obviously, Rapoli wants to win the Derby, but if he can't get that, he wants the Belmont Stakes like he got last year. And I think Pletcher probably has some axes to grind after, getting scratched, and then the medication positive comes out. I think he'll be ready to go, and I think he'll run the right style to possibly win the race. So he's my first use that we've talked about so far.
Yeah, I mean, you said he'll run the right style. I mean, traditionally, these types of horses aren't running the right style. These deep closers. Now, I guess you can argue last year, the Pletcher that won, the Pletcher Rapoli horse that won, Mo Donegal was that same profile. But the horse beat the Derby winner in the race. Now the prep race for it was going to be the overwhelming favorite in the Derby. It was the two-year-old horse of the year. Like, yeah, the horse isn't a stone cold lock by any means, and I'm not using the horse as any. But I'm not going to not use this horse. I mean, like, how can you say I'm against?
I don't think he's going to be in a position to close from that deep. I don't think they're. I mean, look, that the Florida Derby, he was very far back, but that wasn't their intent. I think he's going to be 4, 5, 6 at some point, laying.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to be 8th or 9th and have to close from deep.
I guess it just depends on the separation from the first crop of pace horses to him. He's not the best starter, so he can easily find himself towards the rear, and he will have a little bit of a target on him too. I mean, the horses know, the jockeys know who the favorite is, so I can see him laying further back. But to your point as well, I can also see him finding mid-pack. And you guys might remember, was Mo Donegal like way back, or was he not way right, closer than kind of anticipated? So yeah, I could see the same type of setup. It's the same connections. It's Pletcher, it's Irad, it's Rapoli, and again, this horse was going to be the Derby favorite. The horse he beat twice won the Kentucky Derby, and he was a 2-year-old champ. So, like, come on, you don't need to be cute and be I'm against. So he's a use. He's an A, of course. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I'm torn on this horse. I mean, I think he's the best horse, but he's coming off a 10-week layoff, right? He had breaks in training because he wasn't allowed to train for those 2 weeks that he was on the vet list. And he's by violence. I mean, his violence at distance,
yeah, he did get 3 solid post-it works after that, though.
Yeah, but there was the break. A lot of times you don't want any breaks, and you want everything to go smoothly.
Well, yeah, but the break was what works leading up to the Derby. So I mean,
yeah. So here's the one thing I'd say about that. Like, let's say he runs but doesn't win the Derby, his training schedule would have been probably exactly the same because Pletcher's not going to be working him for the Preakness. So he wins the Derby, sure, he's going to be training for the Preakness.
He loses the race fitness.
He loses that race fitness for sure. But to me, that wasn't as much of a negative because it wasn't like he was laid up for 6 weeks without training. So
yeah, I mean, for me, there's for the price he's going to be, there's too many negatives. I'm not totally against the horse, and I'm not going to say he definitely can't win. But he's an underlay for me. There's just too many negatives. I don't know. But I would lean not using.
For me, there's too many other underlays that I would be against to be against him. So I was against Tappet Trice, who you weren't.
And I kind of like. So
that makes sense.
Right.
But National Treasure, I thought, would be an underlay. Tappet Trice would be an underlay. Forte is going to be an underlay. I agree for all the reasons you said. But of those 3, he's the most likely to win the race. So it's, that's why I would say use the horse. But again, you were more on Tappet Trice, so it makes total sense. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to give Jason Hit Show. So we're at number 7. This is the second of the Brad Coxes here. Hit Show. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, this is the horse I'm going to mess around with the most. I think he ran a big Derby. If you watch that race again, he was pretty close to the pace, and he remained up there. He runs the right style to win this race. He's, like I said, he's going to be pretty close to the pace, not on it, but he'll be stalking, right? I think he has a big shot. My whole theme in handicapping this race is I think Pletcher or Cox are going to win this race. And this is one of the Cox horses that I think I'm going to probably use more prominently than any other horse in the race. Like he's my A in this race.
Yeah, I love this horse as well. He's my A. I'm going to use the most. And the same reasons. I mean, he had a sneaky good Derby. Obviously, you see fifth. It's obviously a good Derby. But he was, there's two horses that were kind of closer to the pace. Obviously, Two Phils was one who held second. And Hit Show was the other one who actually stayed on for any type of run at the end and any piece at the end. And Hit Show wasn't even thought of. He lost to a 60-1 horse in the wood. So, he's almost an automatic toss. But he runs that style. He's actually a little tactical. He could be closer to pace. He could be a little bit off the pace. And for all you Tap It wins the Derbies, look who this horse's damn sire is. Tap It. So, he has the Tap It in his bloodlines. There's the reason, you could say if you're about the breeding, the Tap It breeding, he has it. He has Tap It in the damn sire. So it's my A as well. I love this horse.
The other thing
horse.
to sort of like is, I'm not a huge Franco fan, but he is a Belmont jockey. He knows the track and all,
Yeah, and did he win? No, that was Saez.
He won on.
The other guy.
Ago.
Yeah,
the New York horse.
Yep.
Chalky, come on.
Saratoga or whatever.
Yeah.
Bill Parcells horse.
Tis the law.
Tis the law. Yeah.
But that was the mile and eighth Belmont year though.
Yeah,
it was, but it was still Franco.
And Franco's been well, I guess 15% is not great, but from races that I've seen, he's been riding pretty well. So yeah, I don't mean the best jocks don't. The Irads and the Jose's
it's just good he knows
don't win
track.
every time.
He knows the track.
Yeah, so. I would agree. I'm a big fan of that as well. Chalky, Hit Show.
So much for a clever opinion, but he's an A for me. Must use. For all the reasons you guys said. And I was looking at the jockey angle too, like Jason said, but I think 8 of the 9 jocks are very familiar with Belmont. So, and I don't think Meneses is going to.
Yeah, the only thing with Franco
is second really win, but
the only thing with Franco is he never leaves Belmont. So the Rosarios, the Pratts, the Jose's, they leave. Franco, his winner is in Belmont as well.
Yeah.
Aqueduct, Belmont, whatever you want to call it, but he stays in New York year round.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I don't know if you guys specifically mentioned, didn't catch it. So, I mean, he's shown progression. If you look at the buyers, he's shown progression in every race. And then on the third graphs, he went from a 2 to a 4 to a 3, so slight step back, even though he almost won the Wood, went back to a 3, so there's room for improvement there. And a 2 or a 1 could probably win this race very easily if he runs back to that, or if he runs to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no fast horses in this race when you look at speed figures.
And of the horses I like, I think position-wise, he'll have first run coming for home.
And that Wood came back slow, so I'm not surprised his buy-in speed would not be. But he was the 14 post, had a terrible trip, and lost a photo finish where it looked like he was dead in the water and fought back to almost win. Now it was against a 60-1, like we said, but still, it was, the final time wasn't great. But there's a lot that goes into that, so who knows? All right, Chalky, I'll give you your horse back. He was your Derby pick, 8 Angel of Empire, which is the third Brad Cox horse.
I'm going to stick with him for the Belmont. Not quite as confident as the Derby, I would say, but part of it is like we've talked about. There isn't a real standout horse for a specific reason to me in this race. He ran a good race in the Derby. He just he made the same move Mage made, but Mage made the move first, and he wasn't able to run him down. But he ran a very good race. Just wasn't good enough. If he repeats that kind of race, he probably wins this one. A little bit concerned with the breeding side of it, because the Honor and Serve, Pioneer of the Nile, they're not exactly distance sires or dam sires. But he's got Pratt, so obviously he knows how to ride Belmont, as we just talked about, and I just don't think any of these other horses are so good that you can't discard him as not having a chance. And he's an A for me. I guess he'll be my pick. Actually, slightly over Hit Show, I guess, but I'll make him my top choice for the record.
Yeah, I was not big on this horse. but he's a funny one. So I want to say he's another horse that might be an underlay, but I mean they can't all be underlays.
I don't think it'll be
he
a fair
might not
price.
get.
I don't
Yeah.
think it'll be a fair price, to be honest. But
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's
like
what
if he's
makes it
3 to
kinda
1,
odd.
I don't know if 3 to 1 is
Oh,
like if he goes to 3 to 1, but
If he's 3 to 1, I mean, I'm selling him obviously all
Yeah,
day.
but-
but
I think I think Tapitrice, I think Forte, and I think Angel
Yeah.
of Empire will all be under 4 to 1.
oh, then if he's that low, then he's not even close to being on a ticket of mine.
Yeah, I think they'll all be.
To Chalky's point, like he made it. Oh, Mage made the first move and he outran him, but he also didn't pass 2 fills. Like why didn't Angel of Empire pass 2 fills? Who was the speed horse tiring? I don't think Angel of Empire was getting better as the distance was going. So again, I think the limitations on the only way this horse can win is if Pratt, makes that big middle move, which this horse looks like can make, and has the lead, at the 8th pole or whatever you want to call it, and hangs on. I don't think the horse passes horses in the final, in the final furlong or so to win the race. And there's too many other horses that I feel like will finish better for this horse to win. I do think this is a horse that most certainly needs to be played for the board, though, for sure. But I was kind of against on a win. Jason?
Yeah, I mean he's adding blink, so he might be used a little more prominently. I don't know. He might be ridden a little differently in this race because of the blinks.
Yeah, sometimes though the blinks are to keep them active during the race as well, not necessarily
Yeah, I
the
don't
speed.
know.
I thought that was a negative, personally.
yeah, that was one of the, I forgot to mention that, but that was one of the things that threw me off a little bit. I didn't see it as a positive necessarily, but
I just see it as he might try to put him into the race earlier. But I did like his thoroughgraphs. Like he's got 3 straight 2s. I mean, maybe he's going to make a little move up off of those 2s. I'm not sure. I'm going to use him. I don't disagree. Again, like I just mentioned, I think he's going to be slightly an underlay. But there's no standouts in this race, so I'm not going to say he can't win, and I'm going to use him, and because of my theme of I think Cox or Pletcher wins this race.
Okay.
So-
And we're down to the last one, Red Route 1, who I'm not going to spend a long time. Tours has Tappet as a dam sire, but I think a board is the best they're going to see for this horse, and I think it's 3rd or 4th, no 2nd, and I would probably not even think that, but of course I would run that horse in those exotics, but that's as high as I see. Jason?
Yeah, I actually like this horse for the board a lot. I'm going to try to mess around with him in a superfecta for sure, keying him 4th. And I might even mess around getting him 3rd.
Yeah, I could definitely see 4th. Like that is the
this
4th.
is like he's got 4th
Yeah,
written all over
yeah.
him. Like that would be a good reverse key superfecta.
Because 3rd, you still have to be like in the
Yeah.
Belmont. You're still maybe going to win the race.
But I mean, he's got
4th,
Tappet
you're
in
not
him, so
winning
he
the
might
race.
he might like the distance. He
He
might
just
keep
keep
coming
moving.
and
Yeah.
get up to 3rd.
Yeah.
So I don't see him any higher than 3rd or 4th, but I do see him 3rd or 4th. So I'm going to use him on the board for sure.
All right, Chalky.
yeah, I think 3rd is his ceiling. He's got the best late pace numbers, so he'll be coming. So yeah, bottom of your tries and supers for sure, but not going to win.
He's also run what seems like a well, I guess not. I guess because he didn't run in the Derby, so but he's run a lot of races, running in that the Oakland race. But yeah, skipping the Derby, I guess makes him similar to everybody else. All right, so just I might have missed it, and I didn't really necessarily say mine as well. But Chalky, I think you said the 8 Age of Empire was your top pick over the 7, correct?
Yeah.
Jason, what was your official top pick?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Hit Show as my top pick. But I'm also, I mean, if I had to give out a trifecta, it would be 278 over 2678 over 2678 and probably throw the 9 in.
The 9,
but
yep.
more likely, I'm going to play a superfecta just using 9 4th and then use those
Okay.
horses on top. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it's Hit Show as my top pick. And honestly, the only other horse that I would probably use was Forte, whatever you want to call him. But Hit Show was the horse that I liked the best. And, I said the ones I thought can round out a trifecta. But, I mean, if Hit Show wins, then I better hit this trifecta. So,
And honestly,
you know.
I sort of didn't make Hitcho my top pick because if I did, there's no chance the horse finishes first. So I'm like, I didn't want to mush
Yeah.
it completely.
Yeah, I mean, that's what scares me is I don't know if you'll see that 10-1, but because you guys
Well,
are
if those
saying
other horses get bet, you're
right,
gonna
I
see
mean
10 to
somebody
1.
has to be right. Yeah,
Because
so.
you got Baffert's horse is going to get bet a little bit too.
Yeah, and that's the other horse.
I think
Yeah,
Archangelo's going to get bet.
He might get bet
Nah.
too.
I think it'll be less than. Well, his 8-1 morning line might be a little lower than that. I don't think it's going to be 10-1.
Connections
Yeah,
are big in this race too.
that's true.
But names, I mean, I guess there's enough Italians, but name the Italian names might get bet. All right, so I guess that'll wrap up the episode 58 of Broad Street Hustle. It was a pretty fun episode. We wound up going an hour, like we always do, no matter what. We covered the pick six. We gave out some fun opinions. We talked a little process at the beginning of the show. Hopefully my top pick does not scratch because I am 2 for 2 in the big races where my top pick has scratched both times. So hopefully Hit Show does not scratch this time and I can be just wrong.
Wait, keep talking because usually a horse has scratched while we record. So let me just go check that nobody else dropped out of the race.
And the fact that Cox has 3 doesn't make me feel good as well.
And don't forget to push the U.S. Open next week.
And I was gonna say, and next week we haven't decided. We may just push it to Wednesday of next week. We're working on some of our guests for the U.S. Open who've joined our show in the past. Don't know if we could solidify any of them. Regardless if they are here or not, we will be here to talk U.S. Open. Always one of my favorite shows every year, and now definitely holds a little more weight for me because it finishes up on Father's Day. So the last few years, it's been fun to watch the final round on Father's Day. And I would be remiss to not say that this will be the first major tournament since the merger of Live Golf and the PGA Golf.
Yeah.
Who we all thought would happen, just not this soon. One of our guys, I'll give him a shout out. Kevin was on our Masters show, and I would have to listen back, but I could have swore he said something along the lines, "It never will happen."
I believe so.
So I was sitting next to him, and I was the guy who got to break the news to him that the PGA and Live merged. And let me just say, thank God we were not in an area where anybody else could hear us because there was some disparaging words being thrown around. So it was fun. So
I saw an interesting conspiracy theory today on that.
Throw it out.
I'll talk about next week.
I
didn't write it down. It's very involved.
Yeah.
That the decision to merge may not be made with the intent for the merger to actually go through, and I'll leave it at that.
All right, we need more on that next.
I like that.
Yes.
So we'll talk. Hopefully we get our guest, as I said. Episode 58, please continue to like, watch, subscribe. Catch us on Twitter at Broad Street Hustle. Episode 58. Have a great night.